Part 33. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 323. Zhao Qiuagong heard the sound of Hua Yuanho and was stabbed in his heart. Although I am not happy, I can't say anything. The emperor's decree demoted him to the rank of marquis, but he could only grit his teeth and endure it. Putting this matter aside, Zhao Qiuagong was full of doubts. As the commander of the Jinyi Guards, Ning Chuyi has always been bold and ruthless in doing things. When raiding a home, he never cares whether others want it or not. He just breaks into other people's houses and does it directly. Today it was so unusual that he had someone send him a letter first. When he arrived at Zhuangzi, he didn't take any action, but kept waiting for him to come over. When did this god of death become so polite? This is really abnormal and not at all like his usual style. These thoughts flashed through Zhao Qiuagong's mind, but they didn't appear at all on his face. He just looked surprised and said, "Why did Mingzhen Taoist come into this village? Is it a mistake?" Qing Feng came over, glanced at him, and said casually, "That's right. Go in and search and you'll know." Zhao Qiuagong's eyes swept across his face, and he felt more and more familiar that his features were familiar, but after searching his mind, he found that he had never seen this person before. Just ask directly, "I wonder who this young master is." Seeing that he didn't recognize him, Qing Feng was not surprised at all and just said casually, "I am Taoist Qing Feng, a disciple of Genren Xuanyi." Zhao Qiuagong frowned, looking a little surprised. While they were talking, Ling Chu had already used the system to scan the entire courtyard. After seeing the two naked men and a woman entangled together in the secret room, doing exercises forgetfully, Ling Chu finally understood why Ning Chuyi sent a letter to Duke Zhao. Such a good opportunity to catch an adulterer should not be wasted by Mr. Ning. Ling Chu immediately secretly attached an invisibility charm to the little hammer and released it. Little hammer went straight to the secret room. Although Taoist Mingzhen was good at mystical arts, Little Hammer was invisible, and since he was at the critical moment, he didn't notice anything unusual at all. The small hammer hit him the back of the neck. Taoist Mingzhen stiffened and then fainted. Mrs. Zhao Qiuagong was enjoying it with her eyes closed, but suddenly it was interrupted at a critical moment, which made her both physically and mentally dissatisfied. Opening her eyes, she saw Mingzhen lying motionless on top of her. She thought he fainted because of lack of strength. My heart was full of disgust, but I couldn't help cursing secretly. It turned out that this old trick was useless. Unsatisfied, Mrs. Zhao Qiuagong was feeling uncomfortable. She just raised her upper body and wanted to push Mingzhen Taoist away, but suddenly she felt a pain in the back of her head. The person fainted before he had time to react. Ling Chu took one last look at the two people stacked on top of each other, and calmly recalled the small hammer. Over there, Ning Chuyi was asking Duke Zhao, "Marquis Hua Yuan, why didn't your lady come with you? My wife left the house early this morning and said she was going to the Great Buddha Temple to offer incense, but she was not at the house." Ning Chuyi said softly, "Since Mrs. Hua Yuanho is not here, I would like to trouble you to open the door." Zhao Qiuagong was once again surprised that he didn't kick him out directly. But he was not stupid enough to ask, he just answered and walked quickly to the other courtyard. I pulled the door knocker and clicked it more than a dozen times, but no one answered the door. Qing Feng was worried that Taoist Mingzhen heard something wrong and ran away again. Just as he was about to step forward to stop him, Ling Chu shook his head at him. Although Qing Feng didn't know what kind of medicine the little junior sister was selling in the gourd, she still stopped in her tracks. Duke Zhao frowned and clicked the button 7 or 8 times before hearing an impatient voice, "Who is it?" With a creaking sound, the wooden door was opened from the inside. A maid wearing autumn-colored armor originally poked her head out with a dissatisfied look on her face, but when she saw the person outside the door, she was so frightened that her legs almost weakened. Since Duke Zhao Guo was demoted to the title of Marquis of Yun, everyone in the house changed their name to the Marquis. But this time the maid was frightened and subconsciously blurted out, "The Duke of the country." Zhao Qiagong looked surprised. "Kai Ulan, if you didn't accompany your wife to the great Buddha temple to offer incense, why are you here?" Qiulan originally thought that Duke Zhao came here because he found out about Guo. You can hear his question and find that it is not the case. He quickly stretched out his hand to hold the door to steady his limp body, and his mind was racing. "Slave, I was originally going to accompany my wife to the great Buddha temple to offer incense, but before going out, my wife wanted to check Zhuangzi's account, so I asked my slave to come over. Get the ledger." Zhao Qiagong was suspicious. He remembered that Guo always used to check the account books at the end of the month. There are still more than 10 days before the end of the month. Furthermore, Zhao Qiagong clearly felt that the maid seemed a little frightened when she saw him. This maid has been with Mr. Guo for many years, and she is not afraid when she sees him in the house. This will look like you have done something bad. Even though he was suspicious in his heart, thinking of Ning Chui and others beside him, Duke Zhao could not ask more questions, so he could only put his questions aside for now. When he walked into the house and saw no one, Zhao Qiagong frowned again. Kai Ulan looked up at him tremblingly, suppressing her fear, and said, "I see Mrs. Chen in the house has something to do at home and wants to take a leave of absence. I made the decision to let her and her granddaughter go home. This Zhuangzi is the dowry property of the Guo family. Zhao Qiagong has never been here before, and he doesn't know how many servants there usually are in this house. Now he doesn't know that Kai Ulan lied. Kai Ulan, has any Taoist priest been here?" Kai Ulan was shocked, but quickly shook her head. "No, I am the only slave in the house now." "Master Ning, is it possible that your information is wrong?" Ning Chui didn't say anything, and just waved his hand behind him. The Jin Yiwei who followed immediately dispersed and searched everywhere. Zhao Qiagong watched quietly and did not stop him. He has no dealings with the Taoist priests in Kongsugwan, let alone harboring fugitives. Even if a Taoist priest did escape into Guo's village, it had nothing to do with the Duke of Zhao's mansion. Zhao Qiagong felt that he was innocent, but Kai Ulan, who was standing behind him, was frightened, fearing that Mrs. Zhao Qiagong would suddenly come out. As Guo's most trusted maid, she naturally knew all about Guo's affair with Taoist Qing Yang. Knowing that Qing Yang was dead, the maid actually breathed a sigh of relief and felt that she no longer had to worry about things being exposed in the future. What she didn't expect was that after Taoist priest Qing Yang died, Mrs. Guo would get involved with Taoist priest Ming Zhen again. If only Duke Zhao came, Kai Ulan wouldn't be so worried. After all, he didn't know there was a secret room. But with those royal guards around, even though this maid didn't want to admit it, she knew that the secret room probably couldn't be hidden at all. Sure enough, soon a Jin Yiwei came over and reported, "Sir, a secret room has been discovered." Before Ning Chui said anything, Zhao Qiagong looked surprised. He didn't even know there was any secret room in this house. Seeing Ning Chui leaving with the Jin Yiwei, Zhao Qiagong hurriedly raised his heels. When everyone else left, Kai Ulan's face turned gloomy and she suddenly collapsed on the ground. "Please vote. Please vote. Please vote. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times." Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 324. The secret room of Mrs. Zhao Qiagong was not built in the main room, but in the west wing. Although it was built a bit secluded, with Ling Chu around, he quickly lured the royal guards there. Wei Feng reached out and knocked on the wall. "Listen to this sound, there is something fishy behind it. Let's look for it and see where the mechanism is hidden." Jin Yiwei was looking around when suddenly an old woman rushed in with 2 men and 2 women. "Who are you? How dare you break into our house? If you don't get out quickly, we will report you to the police. No matter who they are, it's wrong for them to break into our house. Get out quickly. These people rushed in and started shouting at the top of their lungs. With a look from Wei Feng, Jin Yiwei immediately stepped forward to stop him. We are Jin Yiwei and we are handling a case. If you dare to stop us, you will all be thrown into Jin Yiwei's prison. When those people heard this, they stopped but did not leave. When the leader, Mrs. Chen, saw them, she quickly glanced at them. Although they felt a little uneasy, the 2 men and 2 women still shouted loudly. We haven't broken any laws. Even if you are a royal guard, you can't arrest people randomly. That is, we stayed at home and did nothing. How could you forcefully break into our home? I think you Jin Yiwei are interested in our family wealth and want to accuse us of any crime so that you can rob our family's money. Ling Chu glanced at those people. Although his voice was quite loud, there was a sense of guilt. It could be seen that these people were still afraid of Jin Yiwei. By making such a fuss, he probably wanted to shout loudly to alert Mrs. Zhao Qiagong in the secret room. What they didn't know was that Ms. Guo had been knocked unconscious by a small hammer. No matter how loud they made the noise, she couldn't hear it. Seeing that those people were still making trouble, a guard in Jinyi pulled out his sword with a cold face. Afraid that Jin Yiwei would kill someone, the 2 men and 2 women took a few steps back in panic. The old woman glared at them with hatred, then sat down on the ground, clapped her legs and began to cry. It's unreasonable, the Jin Yiwei wants to steal our money. You are not officials, you are robbers, I will not live anymore. Seeing the Jin Yiwei approaching with a dark face, Mrs. Chen started crying at the top of her lungs, help, the robbers are killing people. The 4 people opened their mouths and looked at her in fear, fearing that they would offend Jin Yiwei and kill her. This Mrs. Chen is the concubine of Mrs. Zhao Qiagong, and also her confidant. On weekdays, she lives in this house with her 2 sons and daughter-in-law, nominally helping Guo to look after the house, but when Guo is away, she almost treats this house as her own home. Although the main house of this house is reserved for the Guo family, Mrs. Chen's 2 sons live in the east and west wings. Although the matter between Guo and Taoist priest Qingyang was hidden from outsiders, Mrs. Chen had been with her for a long time and could not hide it from her at all. In order to silence Mrs. Chen, Mrs. Guo tacitly allowed her family to live in this house as their home. As for Granny Chen, she is happy to see the matter between Guo and Qingyang come to fruition. After all, she has mastered the secrets of the Guo family, so she can do whatever she wants to the house. Mrs. Chen secretly felt sorry for Taoist Master Qinjiang's death, for fear that the Guo family would take the house back. But today, she overheard that Mr. Guo and Taoist Master Mingzhen were getting together again, and she felt relieved again. Mr. Chen knew that only by keeping the Guo family could she keep the house. If Guo's theft was revealed, their family would probably be in a bad situation. While Mrs. Chen was crying, Zhao Qiagong followed Ning Chui and walked in. Mr. Zhao Qiagong was not familiar with Mrs. Chen, and it took him several times to recognize her as Guo's concubine. Frowning, he said, Mother Chen, didn't you go home because of something at home? What are you doing? Jin Yiwei is handling the case. Why can't you stop it? Why don't you hurry up? Mother Chen never returned home. She just overheard that Mrs. Guo and Taoist priest Mingzhen were getting together again. She was afraid that her 2 sons and daughter-in-law would gossip and detain them in the back room. They just ran out when they heard something was wrong. They didn't even know that Duke Zhao had also come to the house. At this moment, Grandma Chen was complaining in her heart, but she did not dare to show it on her face. He just wiped his tears and cried, Master Marquis, we are fine in the house. These guards in uniforms barge in randomly. If they damage the things in the house, we have no way to explain to the madam. Zhao Qiagong just wanted those Jinyi guards to finish searching and leave quickly, so that he could rush back to Beijing. He didn't take Mrs. Zhang's cries seriously at all, and said casually, "Don't worry, Jin Wei handles things in a measured way. I'm here to watch. If anything happens, I will explain it to my wife and I won't hurt you." MRS Guo and Taoist Master Mingzhen were still in the secret room. MRS Chen was so anxious that she could not rest assured. Seeing that the Jinyi guards were still looking for the secret room, MRS Chen was afraid, but she could only rush forward to stop her. "This wing is so big, there is no way to hide anyone. What are your intentions after waiting so long?" MRS Chen's son was like a drum in his heart. He didn't dare to look at Zhao Qiaogong at all. He could only nod and bow to the Jin Wei. "My lords, we have been in this house and haven't seen anyone break in at all. If you don't believe it, you can go elsewhere. Local search." As soon as MRS Chen finished speaking, Zhao Jingming hurriedly walked in, first said hello to Zhao Qiaogong, and then said to Ning Chui, "Master Ning, I heard that you are searching for the criminals in Kongsugwan. I come to this house often and I know where to hide people. Why don't I take you to search it?" Seeing his son, Zhao Qiaogong was surprised. "Jingming, you didn't go hunting today, why are you here?" Zhao Jingming pursed his lips, suppressing the uneasiness in his heart, and said calmly, "Dad, I went hunting. When I came back, I remembered that my mother had a village here, so I stopped by to take a look." Zhao Jingming didn't lie. He did come over to Zhuangzi on a whim to take a look. What he didn't expect was that as soon as he entered the door, Kai Ulan's maid rushed up to catch him, saying that MRS Guo had secretly come to the house to see Taoist Ming Zhen. But Kai Ulan did not tell Zhen that she had an affair with Guo, and only lied that Ming Zhen had saved Guo's life. In order to repay his kindness, Guo had to hide him in a secret room. Unexpectedly, Jin Yue brought Zhao Qiaogong to search. In order to protect Taoist Ming Zhen, Kai Ulan could only ask Zhao Jingming to lead those Jin Yue away. Zhao Jingming became anxious when he heard this. He knew that Duke Zhao was not allowed to hold important positions in the emperor. If his mother was found out about harboring Ming Zhen Taoist priests, their family might even be despised by the emperor. What's more, he knew that his parents were at loggerheads over the usury issue. If my father knew that his mother was hiding in a secret room with Taoist Ming Zhen, I don't know how many misunderstandings would arise. Zhao Jingming wanted to lure Jin Yue away, but how could Ling Chu let him do so? With a wave of his hand, the small hammer hit the wall. After a loud noise, the entrance to the secret room was revealed behind the wall. End of chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 325. Seeing the exposed entrance to the secret room, MRS Chen's vision went dark. She simply closed her eyes and fainted. Zhao Jingming, who had just been focused on luring Jin Yue away, saw Ling Chu now. Since breaking off the engagement, Zhao Jingming has been bent on getting in touch with Han Yao, but she has been avoiding her, making him very frustrated and unwilling. Zhao Jingming had long forgotten about Ling Chu, his former fiancée. But when I saw her now, I unexpectedly couldn't look away. Although Ling Chu still looks not in good health, she looks like a fragile porcelain doll that people can't help but want to hold in their hands and take care of her carefully. That cold gaze was clearly repulsive, but for some reason, he felt a deep attraction. Zhao Jingming was in a daze and suddenly felt a murderous aura. Suddenly startled, when he came back to his senses, he saw the commander of the Imperial Guard looking at him coldly. Ling Chu was originally expecting Duke Zhao to enter the secret room. He noticed the eyes on him and turned his head suspiciously, but he didn't see anyone staring at him. And Zhao Jingming was shocked and angry that he was attracted to Ling Chu. How could he be fascinated by her appearance at such a critical moment? He has always been disgusted with her. It must be because she was unwilling to break off the engagement and use those otherworldly tricks to confuse him. Zhao Jingming suppressed the disgust in his heart and was shocked when he saw the young man in white walking towards the secret room. "Wait, you can't go in. Qing Feng has been waiting for a long time and has long been impatient. He was tricked several times by Taoist Ming Zhen with his clones. If Ling Chu hadn't stopped him earlier, he would have taken action long ago." Seeing that Zhao Jingming wanted to stop him, how could he take such a young boy seriously? He glanced sideways at him and waved a tactic. Zhao Jingming suddenly felt a strong force rushing towards him, and was forced to rush back a few steps before he was supported by Zhao Qiagong, who was following behind. Over there, Qing Feng has already stepped into the secret room. Ling Chu thought of the two naked people in the secret room, and subconsciously wanted to open his mouth to shout at Qing Feng, but he was worried about arousing others' suspicion, so he could only swallow the words that came to his mouth. Zhao Qiagong frowned and looked at his son, wondering why he wanted to stop him. Zhao Jingming didn't bother to explain and wanted to rush over again. Ning Chui gave a look. Wei Feng pulled out the embroidered spring knife with a swipe, pointed it at Zhao Jingming and said coldly, "Master Zhao, do you know what will happen if you stop Jin Yiwei from running an errand?" Zhao Jingming could clearly see the murderous intent in Wei Feng's eyes. He knew that these imperial guards had always been cold-blooded and ruthless, and had never been afraid of the powerful. If he dared to stop him, blood would definitely be splattered on the spot. Seeing Zhao Jing's understanding face and not daring to move any more, Wei Feng retracted his knife and followed Ning Chui into the secret room. Duke Zhao didn't care about his son and hurriedly followed him. As he walked inside, Zhao Qiagong frowned more and more when he saw the ornaments in the secret room. The things here are actually no worse than those in Duke Zhao's mansion. Just as he was suspicious, he suddenly heard the disgusted voice of Taoist Master Qing Feng, "The world is really going downhill." Zhao Qiagong suddenly saw the imperial guards in front turning back and looking at him with strange expressions. Seeing him approaching, he turned aside to make room for him. Zhao Qiagong was suspicious and subconsciously looked at the positions vacated by the royal guards. When I saw two naked bodies stacked on top of each other on the bed, I was stunned for a moment. When he saw the woman's face again, his eyes were filled with tears. Zhao Qiagong was furious and rushed towards the bed. Ning Chui didn't even look at him. Seeing Ling Chu coming this way, he subconsciously ducked to block her sight. At the same time, he held her shoulders and turned her back quickly. Ling Chu was a little surprised by Ning Chui's behavior, but she was not interested in the of Mr. Guo and Taoist Ming Zhen, so she simply cooperated with his hand and turned back. Over there, Zhao Qiagong had already rushed to the bedside, grabbed Taoist Ming Zhen's arm and pulled him hard. It was in his rage that Duke Zhao was naturally very powerful. Ming Zhen was pulled away by this and finally separated from the Guo family who had been together. Seeing his lower body being torn away from Guo, Duke Zhao was furious. Immediately he threw Taoist Master Zhang Ming Zhen to the ground, and reached out to grab the Ziochun knife of a Jinyi guard next to him. The Jinyi Wei was about to block him when he saw Wei Feng wink at him. The royal guard paused. Zhao Qiagong has already withdrawn his sword. Taoist priest Ming Zhen was thrown to the ground. He finally woke up from the pain. As soon as he opened his eyes in a daze, he saw a cold light coming towards him. Before he could see clearly, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his lower body. A scream almost pierced everyone's eardrums. Ming Zhen hunched over, covered his lower body and screamed several times, then passed out again. Zhao Qiagong's eyes were red, and the knife in his hand slashed towards his neck. Qing Feng, who was watching with cold eyes, quickly made a gesture to block his sword. Seeing Zhao Qiagong glaring at him with anger, Qing Feng said calmly, "Marquis Huayuan, this Ming Zhen cannot be killed yet. He has taken away my junior sister's merit and luck. I have to get it back first." Ning Chui was still blocking Ling Chu, so Wei Feng had no choice but to say, "Marquis Huayuan, the Taoist priest from Kongsugwan is suspected of treason. It's clear that we have to take him back for questioning. Even though Zhao Qiuagong was furious, he still had some sense and reluctantly stopped. Perhaps there was too much noise, and Guo woke up at exactly this moment. Her consciousness still stayed on Ming Zhen, but she seemed to hear someone speaking in a daze. Mr. Guo was startled, subconsciously put her hands on the bed and sat up straight. As soon as he opened his eyes, he met Zhao Qiuagong's cannibalistic eyes. Before Guo could even utter a cry of horror, she saw the knife in Duke Zhao's hand stabbing her heart. Screams were accompanied by blood spurting from her chest, and Guo fell on the bed with her eyes wide open. His body twitched a few times and soon stopped moving. At this time, Zhao Jingming, who was stunned, finally reacted, "Mother." Mr. Guo was naked, and Duke Zhao did not want his son to see it at all. With a sullen face, he turned to Zhao Jingming and shouted angrily, "Get out." Zhao Jingming had never seen his father with such a terrifying expression. Even though he didn't want to, he knew that Guo was not wearing any clothes and he couldn't step forward. He could only turn around in confusion and walked out of the secret room. Although Ling Chu was blocked by Ning Chui and didn't see it, she could guess what happened by hearing the noise. Guo's fate can only be said to be her own fault. Not to mention having an affair with Qing Yang, they were actually very clear about their affair. Even though she was drugged, this is her house. If she doesn't want to, as long as she shouts for help, Ming Zhen won't be able to get her. In the final analysis, she had resentment towards Duke Zhao and wanted to retaliate against him, which led to this end. Please vote. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 326. Although Qing Feng figured out that Ming Zhen was hiding in the secret room, he didn't expect that he was having an affair with Mrs. Zhao Qiuagong. Fortunately, Ning Chui blocked the junior sister. Qing Feng didn't feel much about the death of Mrs. Zhao Qiuagong, but Ming Zhen took away Ling Chu's merit and luck. In fact, he secretly kept half of it himself, and gave the rest to Han Yao. He has to help the junior sister get back her merits and luck first. However, Ming Zhen was turned into an by Duke Zhao. He passed out and was still naked. Of course, he could not be seen by his junior sister. "Xiaoxi, please wait for me outside first." Good. With 3 senior brothers here, Ling Chu didn't have to worry about Ming Zhen escaping. Ling Chu responded, and gave Ning Chui a gentle blessing to thank him. Seeing Mrs. Zhao Qiuagong's soul full of resentment and unwillingness to sit aside, he made a secret gesture and took her away. Just then he lifted his feet and walked out of the secret room. Outside, Zhao Jingming sat blankly on the stone bench. Hearing the movement, he turned around and looked over. Zhao Jingming felt ashamed when Ling Chu saw Guo in such an embarrassing state. Seeing Ling Chu slowly walking out of the secret room, only casually glancing this way and then looking away, he felt another anger rising in his heart. He is disgusted with her. But the moment he saw the sun shining on her, Zhao Jingming suddenly felt as if his heart skipped a beat. Zhao Jingming frowned. It turned out that he had never looked at her appearance carefully. She is not only prettier than her cousin, even better than Wenan County Lord. Obviously she was so far away from him, but he seemed to be able to see the serenity of sandalwood in her body. Originally, Zhao Jingming felt ashamed, angry, and painful because of Guo's affair, but when he saw his father killing her with his own eyes, Zhao Jingming felt chilled. But at this moment, looking at the tranquility on Ling Chu's body, his heart didn't feel so uncomfortable. Zhao Jingming suddenly felt a surge of regret in his heart. If only he had not gotten along with his cousin, but had treated her well. Would it mean that not so many things would happen? The matter between him and the waiter is still a secret, and his reputation has not been ruined. Her mother's loan sharking incident will not become known to everyone, and his father will not be demoted to a marquis by the emperor. His mother will not have an affair, let alone be killed by his father? Ling Chu noticed the sight behind him, but ignored it. No matter what Zhao Jingming is thinking, it has nothing to do with her. She has nothing to do with him. Ling Chu walked towards the corner, where a corpse was lying. It is Kai Ulan, the personal maid of Mrs. Zhao Qiagong. The forehead of the corpse was bloody, and it was obvious that he hit the wall and committed suicide. Kai Ulan's soul was sitting paralyzed next to her body and crying loudly. Seeing so many people entering the secret room, she knew that Guo's affair could not be hidden. As the personal maid of the Guo family, even if she did not commit suicide, she would still be dead when Duke Zhao thought of her. Kai Ulan chose to commit suicide, hoping that Duke Zhao would let her parents go. It's just that although she died, Kai Ulan felt unwilling to do so. She was still so young and her life had just begun. She died before she could get married. How could she be willing to do so? Kai Ulan is unwilling to give up, but her wish is to get married and have children. Ling Chu couldn't help with this wish. There is only one trick to put away her soul. There was no other place, just put it with her master Guo. Ling Chu didn't wait long outside before Qing Feng dragged Ming Zhen out with a look of disgust. After Ling Chu left the secret room, Ming Zhen was woken up by the breeze. The adultery was exposed and Ming Zhen felt nothing when he saw Guo being killed. After all, he has no feelings for Guo. But Zhao Qiagong cut off the roots of his descendants, so he naturally wanted to kill Zhao Qiagong. As long as Qing Feng was there, he couldn't do it at all. Of course Qing Feng did not want to protect Duke Zhao. Ming Zhen robbed Ling Chu of her good fortune and almost killed her. After escaping, he used his clone to play tricks on him. Qing Feng was worried, how could he let that old dog Ming Zhen get his wish? Ming Zhen wanted to resist, but Qing Feng didn't know what kind of medicine he gave him besides using mystical skills. Ming Zhen found that he couldn't move his whole body. Ling Chu's merit and luck were robbed, and the longer it went on, the worse it would be for her health. Qing Feng dragged Ming Zhen out of the secret room and was ready to take action. To prevent unnecessary complications, I chose a wing in Guo's house without waiting to return home. Immediately cast a spell to strip away the merit and luck that Ming Zhen had taken away from him and put it back on Ling Chu. Master Ning taking back the magic weapon, Qing Feng shouted outside. While he was casting the spell, he noticed that Ning Chui was guarding the outside. He thought he was worried that someone would break in and disturb them. Ning Chui opened the door and walked a few steps inside. He glanced around and soon found Ling Chu lying on the couch with his eyes closed. Seeing that he was standing outside just now, Qing Feng gave a rare explanation, I used the soul-nourishing talisman for Xiao Si. A good sleep will help her body recover. Ning Chui's anxious heart relaxed, will she be fine in the future? Qing Feng shook his head, it's not that simple. Xia Si has been in poor health since she was a child. My master and second senior brother used many precious medicinal materials and spent a lot of effort to raise her to such a big size. Although the merits and luck of Mingjins are coming back to Xiao Si, this is only half of it. Even if all the merits and luck are recovered, Xiao Si's body will still be damaged. She will have to spend more effort and medicinal materials to maintain her in the future, otherwise she will die at any time. Ning Chui looked at Taoist Ming Zhen who was lying on the ground like a dead dog, with undisguised murderous intent in his eyes. Qing Feng glanced at him, feeling quite satisfied. As a handsome young master, he noticed that Ning Chui seemed to have some thoughts about Ling Chu. But Qing Feng also saw that the junior sister had no idea about Master Ning. Of course Qing Feng would not be stupid enough to expose it. Ling Chu and Ning Chui are neither relatives nor friends. Based on his understanding of her, she will definitely not tell Ning Chui about her situation. But Qing Feng said it deliberately just now, actually with the intention of testing. The younger junior sister is in poor health, and Ning Chui has that kind of status. Ningguo Gongfu is not a good place to end up. If Ling Chu married him, he would probably be swallowed up by the gang of Duke Ningguo's family to the bone. Qing Feng deliberately let Ning Chui know that Ling Chu was not destined to live a long life, and wanted him to take away his thoughts as soon as possible. Master Ning, Mingzhen, please watch this first. I have to send Xiao Si back first. Ning Chui looked away from Mingzhen and looked at Qing Feng. Prince Xiao, since the sooner you recover your merit and luck, the better it will be for Miss Ling's health. As for the remaining half, I have to trouble you to take action as soon as possible. Qing Feng raised his eyebrows. It seemed that Ning Chui had found out his identity. But it's not a surprise. As the commander of the Jinyi Guards, it would be strange if his identity hasn't been found out yet. Ning Chui raised his voice and called Wei Feng in and dragged Mingzhen Taoist out. Then he said to Qing Feng, Prince Xiao, since you are Miss Ling's senior brother, I have a plan. Thanks to Jin Yinzi, SH2000 and other book friends for their monthly support. Thanks to the heartbeat on the left, Sankai. DB, Heiken, Fenkishan, 641,417, Xianbin, Pros. BA, 2018128100506706, 201703181914308335. China Fuse, Yangliuan, Yuan, Jula N, Why We Grow Old, Pen Yongfang, Heart Like the Sun. DB, Lanianjiang. 2020070613042538, Free Walking Golden Bull, Half an Apple, Holding a Pen for the Future, All Living Beings, Southern Acacia, Silver Star. 2023010520083639, Forget Me Not, Daoyo. EB, Lazy Zixi, Heartbeat on the left, Wind of the Blue Planet, Light Gauze Makeup, Nanki Yimen 20121015, Hacked Book Friends keep checking in again, Colorful Life, supported by recommendation votes from book friends such as Ixixi, 4 Babies, This Moment, and Laughing With You. Thanks to Hungziu and the book friends who support Hungziu. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 327. Ling Mansion. The gatekeeper's wife delivered a message to the dowager. Since the fall of Ling Mansion, I have not received any messages from other mansions. The wife held back her surprise and opened the post, reading it 10 lines at a time, and her wrinkled face immediately broke out into a smile. Immediately turned to Ling Mao, who was drinking tea from a teacup, and said, "This is a post from Dingyuan Prince's palace." Ling Mao was startled. After putting down the teacup, he took the post and looked at it. It is indeed a post from Dingyuan Prince's mansion. Ling Mao was surprised. He had never had any contact with King Dingyuan, but the other party actually invited him to tea at Chayueju. What surprised him even more was that this post not only invited him, but also his wife and eldest son. At this moment, many thoughts flashed through Ling Mao's mind. Could it be that King Dingyuan thought that he had been a good official in the past, so he wanted to make friends with him? Or, the emperor's anger towards him was gone and he planned to revive him again? King Dingyuan just rushed to express his goodwill to him in private before the emperor issued the order? This is not impossible. After all, King Dingyuan began to follow the emperor before he ascended the throne. The two of them once fought side by side on the battlefield. After the emperor ascended the throne, King Dingyuan also became the emperor's confidant. The emperor's thoughts must be known to King Dingyuan. The more Ling Mao thought about it, the more excited he became. He has finally waited for this day. Although he was happy in his heart, Ling Mao was celebrating the Chinese New Year as an official after all, so his face was quite calm. Although he didn't say anything, the wife had been married to him for many years and could tell what he was thinking at a glance. The invitation on the post was made today, although both husband and wife felt it was a little rushed. According to etiquette, if you invite others to a banquet, you have to post it 2 or 3 days in advance. But their Ling mansion is different from the past. King Dingyuan is willing to associate with them, which is a great thing that cannot be asked for. They cannot care about such a trivial matter. The wife suppressed this dissatisfaction in her heart and immediately asked the maid to invite the eldest son over. Lingzong had just finished his breakfast and was doing nothing. Hearing the message from the maid, he rushed over immediately. After hearing what Mrs. Tai said, she immediately looked surprised. King Dingyuan invited us to taste tea. Ling Mao nodded, time is tight, let's go now. Lingzong thought about whether they were father and son after all, and quickly came to the same idea as Ling Mao. The emperor probably intended to revive them, so King Dingyuan suddenly befriended their father and son. Lingzong immediately felt happy, lowered his head and took a quick look at himself. Even though I no longer have an official status, I still cannot be rude. Fortunately, the clothes I wore today are suitable for going out to meet guests. Ling Mao and his son did not need to change their clothes, but the wife asked the maid to help her change from head to toe. Although the maid rummaged through the wardrobe and gave all the best clothes and headdresses to the dowager madam. But looking at the half-new clothes and rough headdress in the bronze mirror, the dowager's face didn't look very good. In the past, in Shangshu Mansion, even the third-class maids and women around her would not look down on this kind of clothing and jewelry. However, as long as the emperor is willing to resurrect her husband, she can still be the royal wife. The wife pursed her lips, suppressing her past glory and wealth in her heart, and quickly walked out of the bedroom holding the maid's hand. The group went straight to Cha Yuju on Changning Street. Although this tea house is not in Yuja, it suits their needs. After all, they still have to keep a low profile until the Ling mansion is restored. Mrs. Dong saw that her husband had not come back after being called away by her mother-in-law, so she couldn't help but ask the maid. Is the eldest master still in the main house? Seeing that her expression was not good, the maid said cautiously, back to madam, I heard that the eldest master went out with the old master and the old lady. Ms. Dong's face darkened. What was going on? The three of them went out together without telling her. At this time, the woman guarding the door came running out of breath and said in a loud voice, Madam, this is your letter. Mrs. Dong was unhappy and wanted to rebuke the woman angrily when she saw her shouting so loudly. I felt happy when I saw the familiar handwriting on the post. He didn't bother to scold the woman, so he immediately waved her and the serving maid to leave. Ms. Dong couldn't wait to open the letter. She only glanced at it for a few times and immediately became angry. That little dared to break Yao Yao's legs. Looking at the crying words in the letter and the traces of tears dripping on it, Mrs. Dong felt so heartbroken that she almost broke. After reading the letter quickly, Dong hurried out of the house. Cha Yueju. King Dingyuan carefully placed the unconscious princess on the couch and laid her down. He carefully picked up a soft brocade quilt and covered her with it. Then he and Han Lin sat down in the private room. King Dingyuan was holding a teacup in his hand, a little absent-minded. The emperor sent him to suppress the bandits, and he just came back yesterday. Unexpectedly, as soon as she returned home, she learned that the princess was unconscious and there was no cure. King Dingyuan stayed by the bedside all night, thinking about what other famous doctors he could ask to come back to treat the princess, when the porter brought him a letter. The signature on the letter is Qing Feng. The princess was unconscious, and King Dingyuan had no idea what she was doing. But I feel like I've heard this name mentioned by someone before. King Dingyuan frowned, turned around in his mind, and quickly remembered. The emperor once mentioned to him that Xiao Feng, the dandy and uninhibited eldest son of Prince Rui's house, had run away from home. Run to Xianqing Temple to worship Xianyi as his master. Dao Hao, Qing Feng. And Prince Rui is the emperor's uncle. Looking at the unconscious princess on the bed, King Dingyuan's heart moved. Quickly picked up the letter on the side and opened it. To King Dingyuan's surprise, Xiao Feng mentioned in the letter that Princess Dingyuan was unconscious. Maybe he had a way to save her and asked King Dingyuan to send her to Chaoyuju. King Dingyuan didn't know whether Xiao Feng could save the princess, but the imperial doctor and the doctors in the capital were helpless, but as long as there was a chance, he couldn't miss it. After taking a few sips of tea absent-mindedly, there was a knock on the door of the private room. The person who came in was dressed in a long white robe and stood tall. He greeted King Dingyuan with a smile, "My lord, long time no see. You are still as majestic and handsome as you were when you were young. Your prince's appearance are also outstanding, but he is still inferior to your father. It seems that you still need to temper yourself on the battlefield." Han Lin glanced at Xiao Feng silently and did not refute his words. He naturally knew that he was not as good as his father who worked the battlefield. Xiao Feng has been a since he was a child, and he has never had any scruples about what he says. It seems that even after following Master Xianyi for many years, his temperament has not changed much. King Dingyuan was not too surprised. He nodded slightly to Qing Feng, but his eyes fell on the man in black robe behind him, Master Ning. Ning Chui cupped her hands and returned the greeting, "Your Majesty." King Dingyuan frowned, his eyes darting back and forth between Qing Feng and Ning Chui. Qing Feng acted as if nothing had happened and pulled Ning Chui to sit down at the table. Although he was surprised that Ning Chui would be here, King Dingyuan did not ask any more questions. After the waiter in the tea house served tea, closed the door and left, he said, "Your Majesty, is there a way to cure my princess?" Thanks to book friend 202008161001495222 for the reward of 100 starting coins. Thanks to 2022120107505168, Chen Rong, Kai Yuning, Hyacinth Haifeng, Bai Jifu. 2023-032-4251. B and other book friends support it with monthly tickets. Thanks to Sankai. DB202303312330. D. 20230208431051, Purgatory Phoenix King, 1402121840214228, 1502162035296889, Chen Rong, A. Purple Leaf, Sihide, Dream Sunyi Cao, King Shizhuang Chuang. Woohoo Dash, 20210301106472433066, Xianbin, Heartbeat on the left, This Moment, Laugh with You, Daoyo. EB, Shangsuan Yu, Yangli Yuan, Dusty Memory, Forget Me Not, UN1, Crystal at Diamond, Purgatory Phoenix King, Beta I Hope My Head is Sleepy, I Am Writing for the Future, 20230208431051, China Fuse, Chen Rong, Free as the Wind 459, Little Yuer Who Loves Food, Yunyun Zongshen, Daoyo. EB, Nan Xiangxi. Why Do We Get Older, Half an Apple Smaller. 202-310-2080. DDA, Purple Leaves? 201811281005067006, Lalang Zixi. The book friends who were hacked kept checking in again, 1402121840214228. Nan K Yimen 20121015. Nan K Yimen 20121015, Tao Yao. EB and other book friends recommend and vote for support. Thanks to Hungzio for supporting book friends. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 328. Qing Feng waved the fan in his hand, then put it away and walked to the soft side. I happened to see Princess Dingyuan's eyelids move slightly. Qing Feng pretended not to see it. He knew that his junior sister had rescued Princess Ding Yuan. She is pretending to be asleep now. But Qing Feng didn't expose her, and only pretended to count her fingers for a while, then frowned and said, "The princess is not sick, nor is she poisoned. She was unconscious because her soul was taken away." King Dingyuan saw his serious face and did not doubt him. "Is there anything you can do, Your Majesty?" King Feng's brows were still furrowed. "There are ways, but the time has not come yet, so please wait patiently." King Dingyuan had no other choice but to wait as he was told. Han Lin looked at the serious Qing Feng. Although he didn't know what medicine he was selling in his gourd, his mother and concubine agreed to cooperate, so he could only pretend not to know anything. But, he felt a little guilty for hiding this from his father. But there is nothing he can do about it. As a son, he can only obey what his mother and concubine decide. Han Lin only hoped that after his father knew that he had been deceived, his mother and concubine would be able to protect him. Otherwise, he might suffer a lot. Just as he was thinking wildly, Qing Feng opened his mouth with a smile. "Your Majesty, to be honest, I did something in your name today." King Dingyuan paused at the teacup in his hand, looked at it suspiciously, and said in a deep voice, "What's the matter?" Facing his cold and solemn aura, the smile on King Feng's face did not change. "You don't have to worry, Your Majesty, it's not a big deal." King Dingyuan didn't quite believe it. Prince Rui and his wife gave birth to 3 daughters in a row. When they were old, they gave birth to such a legitimate son, so they could not help but love him. He remembered that Prince Rui did a lot of naughty things when he was a child, and even the emperor had a headache. Qing Feng continued to smile. "Your Majesty, my junior sister is the eldest daughter of the Ling family. I haven't been back to Beijing for a long time. I think everyone has forgotten that there is a person like me. So, in the name of the prince, I sent a message to the former minister of the Ministry of Household Affairs, inviting him, his wife, and the eldest son to come to Tiuju to have tea together." After a pause, Qing Feng put down the folding fan in his hand and raised his hand towards King Dingyuan. "Behead first and then report. I hope the prince will forgive me." Han Lin's eyes widened slightly. This Prince Yao was so brave. He dared to act in his name without his father's consent. King Dingyuan felt slightly relieved. He had already thought about many bad things just now. For a moment, he even doubted whether he was going to start a rebellion in his name. This Prince Yao has always been bold, but fortunately he still had some sense of control and did not break the sky. Just using his name to invite the former Minister of Revenue to taste tea is really not a big deal. Although I was glad that Qing Feng didn't act recklessly, King Dingyuan didn't show any signs of it on his face. He just looked at him expressionlessly for a while, then said seriously, "I won't do it next time." Qing Feng nodded respectfully. "My lord, don't worry, there won't be a next time." King Dingyuan glanced at him sideways, without much belief in his heart. The reason Qing Feng invited Ling Mao and the others to come over was to enjoy tea, but it was just a nice word. He must have seen that Miss Ling was wronged and wanted to support his junior sister. King Dingyuan had a pretty good impression of Miss Ling. He saved the princess's life at the palace banquet last time, and he knew that the lady also liked the little girl. Now that the princess has to rely on Qing Feng to save her life, King Dingyuan cannot blame him. Let's just think of it as a thank you to the brothers and sisters for their kindness to the palace. Ning Chui had been sitting silently drinking tea. Only when Qing Feng and King Dingyuan's teacups were empty, did he raise his hand to refill their teacups. Several people were drinking tea and chatting when there was a knock on the door of the private room. It turned out that 3 people from the Ling family had arrived. Seeing Prince Dingyuan and his son, Ling Mao, and the others were all smiles. Just when they saw Ning Chui and another white-robed young man, the smiles on the 3 people's faces froze. With outsiders present, they had no way to discuss the restoration with King Dingyuan. Although they were dissatisfied, Ling Mao and the others did not dare to show it. He quickly put up a smile, entered the private room, and greeted King Dingyuan with great enthusiasm. As they got closer, they accidentally saw Princess Dingyuan sleeping on a soft couch nearby. The three of them could not bear the shock on their faces. However, seeing the pale expressions of Prince Dingyuan and his son, Ling Mao, and the others did not dare to ask any more questions. Qing Feng looked enthusiastic. After inviting them to sit down, he asked the waiter to serve tea. Then he praised the tea. Ling Mao's heart sank. Looking at this posture, King Dingyuan didn't seem to want to talk to him about the matter of restoration. Sure enough, after sitting for more than a quarter of an hour, King Dingyuan didn't even mention the topic of Chifu. Even his attitude can be said to be extremely cold. He only echoed a few words from the white-robed young master from time to time. The Prince of Dingyuan was almost the same. As for the commander of the Imperial Guard, his expression was as cold as ice and he rarely spoke. But if they were invited to have tea, it didn't look like it. Ling Mao and the other three were suspicious and could not figure out the purpose of King Dingyuan inviting them over. I could only sit by him uneasily. After 2 rounds of tea, a waiter came in with 2 plates of snacks. While everyone was listening to King Feng's words, the guy quickly glanced at Ning Chui. After the clerk retreated, Ning Chui suddenly said, "Everyone, Jin Wei is handling a case in the private room next door. If you hear any noise, please ignore it and keep quiet." King Dingyuan was a little suspicious and glanced at Ning Chui, but said nothing and only nodded lightly. Even King Dingyuan had to cooperate with Jin Wei in handling the case, and Ling Mao and the other 3 did not dare to have any objections. Han Lin glanced at Ning Chui and then at Qing Feng. He said nothing and lowered his eyes to drink tea. King Dingyuan glanced at him and felt that the eldest son seemed a little too quiet today. Sensing his gaze, Han Lin complained in his heart, but did not dare to show it. King Dingyuan and the others suddenly heard the sound of footsteps. From the sound of the movement, it seemed that a waiter was calling people into the private room next door. But it soon became quiet again. Even though Mrs. Tai and the others were a little curious about what case Jin Wei was working on, they could only pretend to be deaf and dumb when they thought of what Ning Chui had just said. Qing Feng glanced at the expressions of several people, smiled and praised the 2 plates of snacks. King Dingyuan glanced at him suspiciously. He wasn't trying to support Miss Ling, so he didn't say anything. Instead, he praised her over tea and snacks. "You can't invite the 3 people from the Ling family here, is it just for tea?" While I was wondering, there was a sudden sound of the door opening next door, followed by a dissatisfied female voice, "Mom, why did you come here? I've been waiting for a long time." King Dingyuan suddenly frowned. Why did this voice sound so like Han Yao? Suddenly turned his head and looked at the soft couch. "No, the princess is still here." The girl next door called her mother. "She can't be Han Yao. Moreover, Han Yao injured her leg and couldn't walk, so how could she come to Chayuju?" But, the voice just now sounded exactly like Han Yao's. End of this chapter. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 329. Seeing Ms. Dong, Han Yao said angrily with a ferocious face, "Mom, my legs hurt so much. That broke my legs. You broke her hands and feet. I want her to be a useless person from now on. Give her back the pain I suffered 100 times 1,000 times." Hearing the familiar and malicious voice coming from next door, King Dingyuan's face darkened. The sound image can be said to be a coincidence. But Han Yao's leg was broken, and the girl's leg was also broken. King Dingyuan did not believe it was such a coincidence. King Dingyuan wanted to go to the private room next door to see for himself, but he thought that Ning Chui just said that Jin Wei was handling the case in the private room next door. King Dingyuan looked at Ning Chui with a serious expression, "Master Ning." Feeling the oppressive momentum of King Dingyuan, Ning Chui raised his head and looked directly at the past, interrupting his unfinished words in a low voice, "Your Highness, please be patient." King Dingyuan frowned, hesitated for a moment, and finally swallowed the rest of his words. Han Lin pursed his lips, his face darkened, and his heart sank when he heard Han Yao's mother-in-law voice with his own ears. Ling Mao, Mrs. Tai and Ling Zong, who were on the side, saw that Prince Dingyuan and his son looked bad, and they were wondering what happened. Unexpectedly, I suddenly heard a familiar female voice, filled with anger, "Yao Yao, is it really that little from Ling Chu who broke your leg?" The expressions of Ling Mao and the other three people all changed drastically. Ling Zong suddenly stood up and wanted to walk out of the private room. Qing Feng was already prepared. He raised his hand to make a secret and flicked it to the opposite side. Ling Zong was immediately unable to move. Even Ling Mao and Mrs. Tai couldn't move. Seeing this scene, King Dingyuan frowned. It turned out that Qing Feng had used his name to invite the three people from the Ling family here for another purpose. When Han Yao heard Dong's question, she was so angry that she even forgot to suppress her voice. "Mom, what do you mean? Do you not believe me? I know that you keep saying you are good to me, but you are thinking about it in your heart. But it's that Ling Chu." Seeing that she was angry, Mrs. Dong felt very distressed. She walked closer and said urgently, "Yao Yao, how could I care about her? In my heart, no one is more important than you. As soon as I received your letter, I rushed over here. I know it hurts my son's body, but it hurts my mother's heart." A flash of doubt flashed through Han Yao's heart. It was clearly Dong who had sent her a letter, saying that he wanted to help her get revenge and wanted to ask her personally how she was going to torture that Ling Chu, so she endured the pain in her legs and came to Chayueju. Han Yao was just wondering when she saw Dong reaching out to hug her. Although she looked worried, she didn't even shed a tear. I suddenly felt that she didn't really feel sorry for her, and immediately pushed her hand away in anger. "You don't need to be pretentious. When you replaced me, you no longer considered me your daughter. In this case, you go find Ling Chu, she is your good daughter." Ms. Dong was angry and helpless. It could be seen that her legs were bandaged layer by layer, and she felt distressed. "Yao Yao, you are using a knife to dig out my mother's heart. How can the disaster star of Ling Chu compare with you? You are my mother's darling. If my mother is not good to you, why will you be transferred to the palace? You are the head of the county now. If you followed your parents, you would only be able to eat chaffy vegetables in Ling Mansion and be a pariah." Mr. Dong was afraid that Han Yao would no longer pay attention to her in the future, so she was eager to distinguish her, and wanted to take out her heart and soul to prove her love for Han Yao. Although Ling Mao and the other three could not move, their hearing was fine. Hearing the sound, the three of them were shocked and angry. Seeing the angry faces of Prince Dingyuan and his son again, his heart fell directly into the abyss. Ling Mao closed his eyes and a thought flashed through his mind. This is the day when Ling Mansion will be destroyed. The wife was frightened and wanted to strangle Mr. Dong to death. Not to mention Ling Zong, he never thought that the person next to him could do such a bold thing. Han Yao's anger dissipated somewhat when she thought of the huge disparity in status between Ling Chu and herself. Ms. Dong felt relieved and said, "Yao Yao, show me your leg injury." Han Yao said impatiently, "Okay, you don't know medical skills. I have a doctor for my injury, so I don't need you." Seeing her dislike, Mrs. Dong felt sad, but she was also afraid that she would get angry again. "Can only endure the worry. What did you tell the people in the palace? Did they doubt you?" Han Yao was disdainful and proud. "I told Mrs. Tai that I would go to the Taoist temple to pray for her and ask the gods to bless her with no illness or pain and a long life." Mrs. Tai was moved. "I said I prayed in the Taoist temple, but I knelt for too long. I didn't walk steadily when going down the mountain, so I fell down the mountain and broke my leg. The wife praised my filial piety and helped me find a doctor who wanted to use the best medicine to cure my leg. Knowing that Han Yao could be cured, Mrs. Dong felt relieved. That's good, that's good. Thinking of the heartbreaking pain of having her leg broken, Han Yao said with a ferocious face, "Mom, that Ling Chu broke my leg. I will personally cut off her hand tendons and hamstrings, so that she can only be a who will never walk again." With the humiliation of being drugged by Ming Zhen flashing through his mind, Han Yao said fiercely, "Mom, go find a dozen beggars and ruffians and let them take turns playing with that Ling Chu every day. But don't let them play Ling Chu that to death. It's best to get her pregnant with a child. If the child is a boy, leave him to be a beggar. If the child is a girl, she will be sold to a brothel and used as a prostitute for thousands of people to ride on and serve as a pillow for thousands of people. I want to keep that Ling Chu alive, let her live forever, and see with my own eyes what will happen to my child. I want her to take good care of how I replaced her and enjoyed the favor of the prince and princess." Han Yao didn't finish her words. Suddenly there was a loud bang. Qing Feng stood up with a sullen face and shook off the debris on his brocade robe. Just now, the heavy round tea table was shattered into pieces under the angry palms of King Dingyuan and Ning Chui. King Dingyuan suppressed his anger and retracted his hand. He glanced at the terrifying face of Ning Chui opposite him and frowned. I was wondering why he was more angry than me. However, he accidentally saw the princess sitting on the soft couch. Her face was pale, she sat up with her hand covering her heart, and without thinking about it anymore, she quickly walked towards her. Hearing what was said in the private room next door, Ling Mao, his son, and the dowager's faces turned pale. When Mrs. Dong heard Han Yao's words and looked at her ferocious and distorted expression, she felt a chill in her heart. Suddenly hearing the loud noise, my heart tightened, and I just wanted to remind Han Yao to keep her voice down. Suddenly he saw the wall on the right side of the private room and slowly slid aside, revealing a secret door. Looking at the frail figure, Dong's expression changed. Ling Chu. Han Yao, who was speaking happily, was startled at first, but when she saw Ling Chu alone, she immediately said with a ferocious expression, "Mom, catch her quickly." Mrs. Dong naturally wanted to catch Ling Chu to vent her anger on Han Yao, but thinking of the loud noise just now, for some reason, she suddenly felt a strong uneasiness in her heart. Thank you Yao monthly ticket for your support. Thanks pros. BAC Hyde 641417. 201803221504548777 Eternal Love. Colorful Life, 4 Babies, Recalling Childhood. De, Walasali, Fenkishan, Xiaomei, Why We Grow Old, Kingsha Makeup, Xianbin. 201703181914308335, Yuan Wan, Chen, Jula N, This Moment, Laugh With You, Lanian Jiang, 202301052008363119, Shangsuan Yu. Crystal at Diamond, Sunshine, Nanki Iming 20121015, Yunyan Zongshen. 201811281005066706, The Little Fish Who Loves Food, 20090811, 202-310-2080. DD. From Forget Me Not, Beta She's Head is Sleepy. 2020070613042538, Half an Apple. Panax Noto Ginseng. DB140212184021428. 2023030813112047 Why We Grow Old, Colorful Life, The Goat Song and the Story of the Eyes, A Moment of Negligence, Adihi and other book friends recommend and vote for it. Thanks to the book friends Hongxiu and Xiaoxiang for their support. End of this chapter. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 330. Seeing the sudden appearance of Ling Chu, Dong endured uneasiness and asked with a gloomy face, "Chu, why are you here?" Han Yao, who was thinking about how to torture Ling Chu, was stunned and suddenly realized that Dong's words were wrong. When Han Yao saw Ling Chu suddenly appearing, she didn't think much about it at all. She thought that the reason why Ling Chu appeared here was because Dong brought her here for revenge. But what Dong said clearly did not know how that appeared in Cha Yuju. Han Yao was a little uneasy and didn't know if this heard what she just said. Ling Chu looked at the mother and daughter expressionlessly and said coldly, "If I wasn't here, how would I know that you mother and daughter are so vicious? I'm here to collect debts for myself." To be more precise, she came to collect debts for the original owner and avenge the real Ling Chu. Ms. Dong glared at Ling Chu with cold eyes. It seemed that the little had indeed heard what they just said. "Mom, she is just alone. If you catch her, no one will know about it," Han Yao said, quickly took out a piece of talisman paper and threw it towards Ling Chu. This talisman is a soul-fixing talisman, which Ming Zhen used for her self-defense. Dong naturally knew that Han Yao's life experience should not be exposed, so he quickly stepped forward to arrest Ling Chu. Ling Chu didn't move, waiting for Dong to come closer, then grabbed Han Yao's talisman and turned his hand to slap Dong. Seeing that Mrs. Dong was restrained without even touching the hem of the bitch's clothes, Han Yao cursed in her heart that it was useless. Suppressing his anger, he smiled ferociously, and suddenly took out a strange rattle from his sleeve pocket. Taoist Ming Zhen broke her virginity, and in order to compensate her, he specially gave her this soul-absorbing bell. "Just ring this bell and it will charm that bitch's mind. Catch her again, drop her blood into the bell, and ring it again, the bitch's soul will be sucked away and imprisoned inside." Ling Chu's eyes turned cold when he saw the rattle. With a wave of his hand, a small hammer came out. The small hammer was so fast that Han Yao was knocked to the ground before she could ring the soul-absorbing bell. Immediately vomited out a large mouthful of blood. Fall to the ground, and the newly connected legs were disconnected again. Han Yao was in so much pain that she couldn't hold the soul-absorbing bell in her hand and fell to the ground. Ling Chu waved his hand again and hit the soul-sucking bell hard with the small hammer. "Yao Yao." Seeing Han Yao being knocked to the ground, Dong was shocked and angry, but she couldn't move. He stared at Ling Chu with a look that made him want to peel her skin and convulse her. Ling Chu didn't even look at her, but suddenly said, "Okay, you can come out." King Dingyuan heard what was going on in the private room next door and was already ready to show up. Reluctantly, Qing Feng just said softly, "Your Majesty, please be patient," and stopped him and Han Lin. Even though King Dingyuan had advanced Kung Fu, he was helpless in the face of mystical arts. Unlike King Dingyuan and others, Qing Feng knew that Ling Chu was not without the ability to protect himself. He knew that Dong and Nananan County Master could not hurt her. Ning Chui has been silent, but the aura on his body is so cold that even the breeze is far away from him. Hearing Ling Chu ask them to come out, Qing Feng raised his hand and eliminated the immobilizing skills of Prince Dingyuan, his father and his son, and several people from the Ling mansion. Mr. Dong looked at Ling Chu in surprise and uncertainty. Who does this want to let out? Is there someone else hiding in the dark? While feeling uneasy, the wall on the right side of the private room slowly moved aside. Dong's heart suddenly skipped a beat. What exactly is this Cha Yuju? She has been here several times, but she has not discovered the mystery hidden in this elegant room. Dong's heart kept sinking. But when she saw the wall moved away, there were all people standing inside, and her pupils tightened. His face turned pale. Han Yao heard something wrong and ignored the pain on her body. She subconsciously looked up. But this look immediately frightened her out of her wits. Seeing King Dingyuan's face as dark as ink, Han Yao cautiously shouted, "Father." King Dingyuan did not look at her. His eyes fell on Ling Chu. At that palace banquet, King Dingyuan did not look at Ling Chu carefully. After all, he was a foreigner and it was hard for him to stare at a little girl. Now that I looked carefully, I realized that her eyebrows were so similar to those of the princess. Seeing that Prince Dingyuan, his son, and the princess were all paying attention to Ling Chu, Han Yao's heart kept sinking. But he did not dare to show any dissatisfaction. Seeing Han Lin supporting Princess Dingyuan, a flash of surprise quickly flashed across Han Yao's face. She didn't even know when the princess woke up. If it was normal, Han Yao would have rushed to the princess's side, but her leg was not healed in the first place and had just been broken. She couldn't move at all. I could only endure the pain and pretended to be surprised. Mother concubine, it's great that you're awake. Princess Dingyuan withdrew her eyes from Ling Chu and looked at Han Yao with a complicated expression. From childhood to adulthood, she raised Han Yao like a jewel and never thought that she was not her biological daughter. She asked herself that she did not owe Han Yao anything. Even because she is a girl, she is favored more than the eldest son and the second son. But Han Yao kept it secret from her. She had not revealed her acquaintance with Dong for a long time, and had repeatedly attacked Ling Chu, trying to kill her. He would show no mercy to her, the mother-in-law who raised her. Thinking of Ling Chu's suffering since childhood, the princess was so heartbroken that she couldn't breathe. Thinking again of what Han Yao said just now about cutting off Ling Chu's tendons, the princess felt extremely chilled. Since you are Dong's child, you can still call me princess from now on. Han Yao's expression changed, but in a flash she pretended to be surprised again, and interrupted Princess Dingyuan's unfinished words hastily. Father and concubine, did you hear what I just said to Mrs. Dong? You have misunderstood. Actually, I was rehearsing an opera excerpt with Mrs. Dong just now. Mother concubine, you also know that the Queen Mother likes to watch excerpts. Seeing that the Wanshao festival is coming soon, I wanted to perform an excerpt for the Queen Mother, so I asked Mrs. Dong to rehearse here. I didn't expect that you would misunderstand me. Father and King, Mother and Concubine, what you just heard us say is actually an excerpt from the plot of the opera. Why am I your biological child? I may be Mrs. Dong's daughter. Miss Ling, you have also misunderstood. Mrs. Dong is definitely your mother. She saw that your Ling mansion was in decline and couldn't bear that everyone continued to live a miserable life. She wanted to take advantage of the longevity festival to perform an excerpt in person to please the Queen Mother. So that the Queen Mother can help intercede with the Emperor and reinstate your grandfather and father. Ling Chu listened quietly to Han Yao's words, then smiled and clapped. Although she was smiling, her smile did not reach her eyes. The county master's eloquence and quick wit are really good, and this excuse is even better. Ignoring Han Yao's cannibalistic gaze, Ling Chu suddenly sneered, County Lord, your brain is a good thing. When your mother gave birth to you, did she leave your brain in her belly and forget to give birth to you? Do you think that so many people here are fools and will believe your nonsense? Where is the ticket? Come to my bowl quickly. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 331. Princess Dingyuan raised Han Yao like jewels and treasures, so naturally her affection for her could not be completely dissipated all at once. Seeing her slumped on the ground in embarrassment, with a pool of blood in front of her and a broken leg, I felt weak. But thinking about the methods she had told Dong about to deal with Ling Chu, she could only harden her heart and turn away. When Han Yao saw it, she immediately raised her neck and let her tears fall one by one. She said with an expression of disbelief, Father, Prince, Mother, Concubine, you misunderstood me just because Yao Yao rehearsed an excerpt. Even my own daughter no more. I just wanted to please the Queen Mother, so I racked my brains to come up with such an ingenious drama, but I didn't expect that you all misunderstood me because of this. Since your father, king, and mother are dissatisfied with this opera, Yao Yao should go and tell the queen mother that I will not perform this opera anymore. King Dingyuan frowned. If the queen mother asked about this matter, it would be difficult to explain. After all, they only listened to a few words from Han Yao and Dong, and there was no substantial evidence. If Han Yao was crying to the queen mother, it was because she wanted to put on an excerpt for the queen mother, and they misunderstood her. For the sake of her own reputation, the queen mother would definitely support Han Yao. If the queen mother confirms that Han Yao is their biological child, it will not be easy for them to recognize Ling Chu. When Ling Zong saw that King Dingyuan was silent, he rushed over and slapped Dong hard. "Ms. Dong, you dare to do such a bold thing without telling me, are you crazy?" Ling Zong was very angry and had great strength. Mr. Dong was knocked to the ground by his slap, and the talisman on her body also fell off. Being slapped in front of so many people, Ms. Dong was angry, but she didn't dare to say anything at this time. She only covered her red and swollen cheeks and said aggrievedly, "Husband, you misunderstood. I was rehearsing an opera excerpt with Wenan County Lord. I just see that you have lost your official status, and I can't bear for you to waste your whole life like this. I want to take advantage of the longevity festival to use opera excerpts to please the Queen Mother, so that I can ask her to intercede in front of the Emperor and let you reinstate your position. I am doing this all for you, for the Ling Mansion, and for Brother Hao and the others to have a good future." Han Yao breathed a sigh of relief when she saw Dong cooperated with her, but she also put on an aggrieved and helpless look. Father, mother, concubine, Yao Yao did not lie, she was indeed rehearsing an opera with Mrs. Dong. Hearing her call Mrs. Dong felt as distressed as if someone was cutting her flesh with a knife, but she couldn't say anything. After hearing what Dong said, Ling Mao secretly glanced at Mrs. Tai. Having been married for many years, the wife knew what he meant without opening his mouth. "Ms. Dong, are you really rehearsing an opera excerpt with the head of Wenan County?" "Mother, of course it is true. Although I have fostered Chuji's son in a Taoist temple since she was a child, she is indeed my biological daughter who was born in 10 months of pregnancy. I like County Master Wenan, but I am not so lucky to be able to give birth to such an outstanding daughter." The wife glanced at her and said apologetically, "This, Your Majesty, Princess, it seems that we have indeed wronged the county lord. We were just in the private room next door and did not see it with our own eyes. It is indeed easy to misunderstand based on the words we heard. Although we misunderstood the county lord, it just shows that the excerpt designed by the county lord is indeed unique. If the Queen Mother sees it, she will definitely like it." As soon as Mrs. Dong said these words, a trace of disdain flashed in Mrs. Dong's lowered eyes. Even if her parents-in-law guessed that she had a new child, so what? They still had to cooperate with her. After all, if it were confirmed that she had replaced the child of the prince and princess, the Ling family would not be able to bear the anger of King Dingyuan. Ling Chu looked expressionless as the Thai madam racked her brains to excuse her for Dong's sake. He turned to Ning Chui and said, "Mr. Ning, please help me." Although Ning Chui remained silent, he saw everything happening. Knowing that she didn't want to endure it anymore, she immediately shouted, "Wei Feng." Wei Feng, who had been waiting outside for a long time, couldn't wait to open the door of the private room. Seeing him striding in while dragging Taoist Mingzhen like a dead dog in his hand, the expressions of both Mother Dong and Han Yao changed greatly. Wei Feng did not look at them, entered the private room, and threw Taoist Mingzhen to the ground. After Mingzhen was deposed by Zhao Qiagong, he never had a chance to treat his wound. At this moment, Wei Feng threw him and pulled the wound. His face was twisted in pain and his body curled up into a ball. Seeing that except Ling Chu, the Dong mother and daughter, 3 people from the Ling family, and King Dingyuan were all there, Mingzhen guessed that what happened back then must have been exposed. Ling Chu did not mince words and asked directly, "Taoist priest Mingzhen, Tell me, what was the truth back then? Ming Zhen knew that if he told what happened back then, he would definitely die. If King Dingyuan knew what he had done, he would definitely kill him. What happened back then? I don't know what you are talking about. Now that things have happened, the Taoist master still wants to pretend to be ignorant. In this case, it's better not to take the other two legs of the Taoist master. Did these two people not pay attention to her when they saw that she was in poor health? Ling Chu did not look at Ming Zhen again, but turned to Ning Chui and said, Master Ning, can I borrow your sword? Ning Chui glanced at her silently, then reached out and pulled out the long sword. King Dingyuan frowned, and the princess was worried. How could she see blood on her hands? She was about to stop him. Qing Feng on the side glared at Ning Chui with dissatisfaction and said to Ling Chu, Xiao Si, wait a minute. Ming Zhen, who was feeling uneasy, was surprised. He didn't expect that Qing Feng would stop Ling Chu from taking action. But soon I felt something was wrong. This Qing Feng is not a good person, how could he be so kind to help him? Sure enough, Qing Feng soon saw Qing Feng take out an exquisite porcelain white bottle from his sleeve pocket. Xiao Si, the blood on a person with such a black heart and rotten liver is probably also black. You'd better not get your hands dirty. I have a good product here, which was developed by my second senior brother. I just want to try it out to see if it works well. Ning Chui paused. Qing Feng didn't know whether he was worried that Ling Chu would cut off Ming Zhen's legs himself, so he quickly stepped forward, pinched his lower jaw with one hand, and forced him to open his mouth, then flicked his hand. The medicine went into Ming Zhen's throat. Ming Zhen wanted to resist, but he couldn't get away at all. Seeing Qing Feng move his hand, Ling Chu had no choice but to stop thinking about doing it himself. When Qing Feng let go of his hand, Ming Zhen immediately wanted to grab his throat. Unexpectedly, the medicine reacted immediately. At first, the abdominal pain felt like cramping, and then the whole body felt like falling into an ice cellar. It was even so cold that there was a layer of frost on my eyebrows. This is not over yet. When Ming Zhen felt that he was about to freeze into a snowman, he suddenly felt like he was being roasted in a furnace. Just when he thought he was about to be roasted alive, it felt like he was being eaten by thousands of ants all over his body, and it was extremely itchy. Ming Zhen scratched frantically, but couldn't scratch the spot. The itch went deep into his bones, making him want to peel off the skin on his body so that he could scratch the bones. The medicine was extremely weird, but after a quarter of an hour, Ming Zhen couldn't hold on and begged for mercy. I said, give me the antidote quickly. Thanks to book friend 854009 for the reward of 100 book coins. Thanks to 20210726130420911, Fengguo23 and Medog monthly tickets for their support. Thanks Daoyo. EB, White Clouds in the Sky L, XXC. 2023-033-1230. Left Heartbeat, 641,417, 20210301106472433066. Learn how to disguise. 201703181914308835, Seongbin, Bertaxi's head is sleepy, Dream Suni Icao, Scar Red, Falling Leaves No Autumn. Ed, Why Do You Grow Old, Clear Sky After Rain. Ed, Pick a Pen to See the Future, Jula N, Vivian Lee, The Goat Song and the Story of Eyes, Shangsuan Yu, Yun Wan, Mochuo, Forget Me Not, Yunyun All Living Things, 20090811, Pen Yongfang, Yang Luan, CHLWCH, Yun Wan, Happy Baby. 20230208431051, 1502162035296889, This Moment, Laugh With You, China Fuse, 202301052008363119, 854009 and other book friends recommend and vote for support. Thanks to Hungziu and the book friends who support Hungziu. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 332. It was just a small pill, but the medicine made Mingzhen roll on the floor in pain, and the pain on his lower body was even more heartbreaking. His body still felt half as if he was in an ice cellar and half as if he was being roasted in a stove, and the seams in his bones were itching. Mingzhen was almost driven crazy by the torture. Although he has a mysterious skill, Qingfeng didn't know what means he used, and he couldn't use any of his mysterious skills. All the magic weapons and talismans on his body were taken away, and he couldn't even put a pain relief talisman on himself. In less than a quarter of an hour, Mingzhen was dying. He could only beg Qingfeng for mercy. "I confess, give me the antidote quickly." Mr. Dong's face was so pale that she had no trace of blood, but she wanted to stop her. But in full view of everyone, she couldn't speak at all. Qingfeng glanced at Mingzhen with disgust, but did not refuse. He took it out of his sleeve pocket and quickly took out a small porcelain bottle with a white background and red patterns, and poured out a small red pill. Ling Chu's eyes fell on the pill. He paused, and then raised his eyes to look at Qingfeng. Qingfeng was quite satisfied when he saw that she just watched silently without stopping her. "Throw the pill in your hand." Mingzhen reluctantly reached out to catch it. Seeing that Qingfeng was so happy to give him the antidote, he was a little surprised. Looking at the unusual red pill in his hand again, he felt uneasy. Pills of this color are extremely rare and look like blood at first glance. Qingfeng saw his suspicion in her eyes, but said nothing, just waving her folding fan and squinting at him. Mingzhen didn't believe that the pill in his hand was the detoxification pill, but so what if he didn't believe it? If he didn't take the antidote, he really couldn't help but dig out the skin and flesh on his body so as to scratch the itch between his bones. If he doesn't take this medicine, he will either die of pain or itching. If you eat it, you may still have a chance of survival. Mingzhen hesitated for a while, then finally closed his eyes, gritted his teeth, put the medicine into his mouth with trembling hands and swallowed it. The pill was refreshing in the mouth, and it quickly stopped the pain in his body, and the extremely itchy feeling also disappeared. Mingzhen secretly breathed a sigh of relief and collapsed on the ground, gasping for air. Ling Chu kept watching with cold eyes, without any sympathy. Mingzhen's small amount of sin is nothing compared to the suffering the original owner suffered from childhood to the major, and the loss of his life. "Do you want the Taoist priest to tell the truth?" Mingzhen looked up at Ling Chu and asked, "If I tell the truth, can you let me go?" Mingzhen did have some eyes. With so many people, he only asked Ling Chu. Ning Chui frowned and was about to speak. The face of King Dingyuan over there sank at the same time. Qingfeng didn't give them a chance. With a sneer, he raised his foot and kicked Mingzhen over, then stepped on his chest. "Don't tell me. Do you think it will be fine after taking the antidote?" Ling Chu twitched the corners of his mouth and silently swallowed the words that came to his lips. Since Qingfeng returned to Beijing, she has found that these three senior brothers almost treat her as a porcelain doll that can be broken at the touch of a touch, and they try to get ahead of her in everything. She wanted to take care of Mingzhen herself, but she couldn't find the chance yet. This made Ling Chu, who was used to relying on himself for everything, really uncomfortable. Mingzhen endured the insult and kept his mouth shut. He knew that if he told her, he would definitely die, but if Ling Chu was willing to let her go, King Dingyuan would not go against her decision. Mingzhen didn't speak, and Qingfeng didn't force him. Instead, he sneered, took back the foot that was stepping on his chest, and stepped aside. Mingzhen was a little confused. "Just sat up with all my strength. Unexpectedly, there was a sudden sharp pain in my heart, and I spit out a mouthful of blood when I opened my mouth." What makes Mingzhen panicked is that he hasn't finished spitting yet. It was one mouthful after another, and I couldn't stop at all. Ming Zhen knew this only when he saw Qing Feng standing far away with a look of disgust on his face. The reason why he stopped stepping on him was not to let him go. But he didn't want the blood he vomited to stain his feet. Ming Zhen was shocked and angry as he saw more and more blood being vomited out. The red pill he took was not an antidote pill at all. Qing Feng looked at him with cold eyes. He had known for a long time that Ming Zhen would not confess easily, so how could he give him the antidote pill so easily? The red pill just now was also what he had asked for from his second senior brother before. It is also poison. Fight fire with fire. Although the medicine suppressed the pain and itching on Ming Zhen's body, it did not remove the poison from his body. Ming Zhen hates it so much, but there is nothing he can do. This Qing Feng is obviously a Taoist priest, but he doesn't use mystical skills. Instead, it was poisoned. If Qing Feng uses mystical skills, Ming Zhen can also judge whether his situation is serious or not. But he knows nothing about poisons. Ming Zhen's heart felt cold. Was he going to die? Seeing him vomiting blood and unable to stop, Princess Ding Yuan felt a little afraid to look at him. But in order to hear the truth of that year, she secretly gritted her teeth and forced herself not to soften her heart. Mother and daughter Dong and Han Yao were secretly happy. Mr. Dong was afraid that Ming Zhen would tell the truth about that year, so she naturally wished that he would die immediately. Han Yao, as for Han Yao, was drugged by Ming Zhen and lost her virginity. She committed herself to a Taoist priest who was old enough to be her grandfather, so she naturally resented him in her heart. At this time, seeing that Ming Zhen was in such a miserable state and that he had lost his former immortal spirit, he felt even more disgusted with him. Only when Ming Zhen is dead can she forget the humiliation of being stripped of her virginity by him. Mother and daughter watched silently, both hoping in their hearts that Ming Zhen would die soon. Ming Zhen vomited blood, and the more he vomited, the more panicked he became. He knew that if he continued to vomit like this, he would never see the sun tomorrow. He doesn't want to die. He was deposed by Zhao Qiuagong and had such great hatred. If he died, there would be no way to avenge him. Ming Zhen endured fear and resentment and begged Qing Feng for mercy, "Give me the antidote, and I will tell you the truth about that year." As a relative of the emperor, Qing Feng has been a since childhood, but he has never seen such a person. After leaving the capital, he worshipped Master Xianyi and learned mysticism. However, he never returned to the capital. Instead, he traveled around, and there were many extremely vicious people. He can live forever and live freely and freely without fear of anyone. Naturally, he is not a soft-hearted person. In the past, he would kill people like Ming Zhen as soon as he caught them. How could he be allowed to live and have a chance to bargain? However, for the sake of Ling Chu, Qing Feng still took out a dusty pill and threw it to Ming Zhen. Mother and daughter Dong's faces were gloomy, but they could not find an excuse to stop Ming Zhen. Except for the people from the Ling mansion, there is no one here that she can fool at will. Dong could only wink at Ming Zhen secretly. But Ming Zhen would not pay attention to her at this moment. Even if he saw her, he would not pay attention to her. Ming Zhen kept vomiting blood and panicked for a long time. After getting the medicine, he couldn't wait to swallow it. Soon, the vomiting of blood stopped. Although he saved his life, Ming Zhen was not happy. At that time, he would die if he said nothing. The only difference is whether you die now or die later. Having said that, although King Dingyuan will not let him go, he probably will not kill him immediately in front of the princess. Ming really didn't want to die, he didn't want to miss even the slightest opportunity. But if he didn't say anything, Qing Feng might kill him immediately. Thanks to Happy Little, Handsome Mom, Past Events Sui Feng. EB, Snowfy, Summer is in full swing and winter is in the winter, Medog. 16050112003035, Fish in the Starry Sky and other book friends monthly tickets support. Thank you to the fish in the starry sky, Ixixi, Xiaomei, Fenkishan, A. Z, 202301052008363319. Panax Noto Ginseng. DB, Stomachache, Noisy, Eternal Love, 641,417, Momentary Negligence, Dream Suni ICAO, Why We Grow Old, Medog, Xianbin, Chen, 20230521742110, 202301052008363319. UN1, Jula N, China Fuse, Wind, Happy Baby, Flower. Mo Yan, Candy. CD, Prose. BA, Beta 11's head is sleepy, why do you grow old, Yanglia Bank, all living things. Recommended by book friends such as Lalonzixi, This Moment, Laughing with You, Smile, Now, Ixixi, Searching, Evening Primrose Basking in the Moon in Lucknow, Colorful Life, Forget Me Not, Purgatory Phoenix King, Dusty Memories, Alice. AA, etc. Vote support. Thanks to the book friends who support Xiaoxiang Hongziu.